Are you a football fan? Have you ever found yourself wondering, what in the world is that ref thinking? Mikey the referee is here to help you. Join me on Whistle Talk as I talk to professionals on the field and in the booth to help you understand what is going on inside the mind of a football official. All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome to another episode of Whistle Talk. Tonight we are attempting another live episode, so hopefully we get some people out there, some chats, maybe some questions from people out there. We're going to be across YouTube and Facebook right now. Usually takes a moment or so. It's a little bit of a lag time, so for the people that are listening to the recording, we'll see what we have hopping on there. But once again, thank you for jumping on to Whistle Talk. I ask everybody, if you're out there listening to the show and watching the show, whatever platform you may be doing this on, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's get the word out there again. The more likes and comments that people put out there, the more that Spotify and Apple will push our show to the top and get some more visibility for what we all do on a Friday and Saturday afternoon basis. So try to get some more exposure. So tonight we got a little bit. We got another roundtable type of session. I was lucky enough to get a couple people jump on and take me up on my invite that I posted on Facebook about joining a white hat roundtable is what I'm calling it. So we got some referees from around the country that are taking their time out of their evening here in Jersey to jump on with us. So going around my screen, I got Mr. Scott Campbell. I got return customer, Mr. Mike Goldman of Friday Night Stripes. Joining us from Iowa, Steve Schwab. Coming from Illinois, we got Stephen Painter. And we got another Jersey boy, Sean Perry, coming on for his second episode. So, gentlemen, thank you very much for jumping on tonight. How's everyone doing?
Great. Thanks for having us.
Great.
Good.
So, guys, with each show, I always like to allow everybody to kind of do a little introduction of themselves. So, Sean, we'll start off with you if you just want to give people a quick background where you're coming from and your position.
Absolutely. Good to be back. I am White Hat on our crew here in central New Jersey. Grew up in Jersey City. Live down in Bridgewater now, so Somerset County area. Been doing football for almost 15 years now. Started out as a basketball official a few years before that. Initially on my crew, I was the back judge, and I would pick up the white hat once or twice a season just to get some reps in. And about 3 seasons ago, our current white hat, or previous white hat, decided that it was time to move on. So I made the transition, and I've been white hat ever since.
Very nice. Well, thank you once again for jumping on. Second episode for Sean. Mr. Painter, how about yourself? How you doing, sir?
Pretty good. I'm from Illinois, western suburbs of Chicago. Originally from Maine, so you might hear a little Eastern accent pop out every now and then. I got into officiating. I always wanted to be a football official, and I coached for many years. And then when I was here in Illinois, I decided I was going to jump into it. And I was in a class of brand new officials learning the rule book because after coaching football for 20 years, I thought that I absolutely knew all the rules until I got into the class and realized I didn't know anything about the rules.
Yeah, those rules are Greek after you make that transition.
So then I had a couple of mentors after a year of just kind of jumping on freshman games and stuff, doing various positions. I had a mentor that said, listen, get a crew together. I want you to be the white hat. And so I did. And then after that, I've been the white hat ever since. It's a position I love to do. A lot of people they're afraid of it. But to me, I think it's the best position on the field.
Well, that being afraid of it is hopefully something that we could put a little kibosh to tonight and set it straight for everybody out there. Mr. Schaub, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to be here. So I'm from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. almost born and raised in Iowa, and this is my 15th year as a high school referee. And it's the same thing. I started off as a H, and after 2 years working with the same referee, he decided to retire, and my crew had a meeting without me and voted me to be the next referee. So it was kind of trial by fire. And so 15 years later, I'm still doing it, and this will be my 5th year as a D3 college official as a referee as well. So I've got a Friday night and a Saturday night referee job.
Oh, very nice. So you were kind of voluntold that you were getting the position, huh?
Yeah, it made sense at the time, and it's worked out pretty well. So
Awesome. Well, once again, thank you for joining us. Mr. Goldman, welcome back. How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here. This will be, if I come back, I'm not sure yet. This will be my 33rd year refereeing high school football. As I said, I had 20 years of basketball, an injury under that. I played high school football in Chicago and had the pleasure of Jerry Markbright refereeing my games. So
Cool.
I didn't realize it till years later, because I kept seeing this guy in the Big Ten who looked familiar. And then I ran into Markbright at a conference and just made him feel old by saying, you referee games I played high school ball in. I played 1 year. I graduated, and by some quirk of fate, I ended up being the head coach, the volunteer head coach of my high school. And I did it for a year. It wasn't a real successful season, but at the end of the season, someone walked by and suggested I become a referee or an official. And I said, oh, it's a good idea. So 38 years later, I took my first class. Yeah, a lot of life had to happen between that.
Yeah.
And the one thing I did not want to be was the referee, the crew chief. I was a corporate executive. I had to manage a lot of people. And I was going to go do football, and I didn't want to manage anybody. I didn't want to have any underlings, and that was okay for a while. And then my crew chief decided he wanted me to referee a game, be a white hat for a game while he worked back judge. We did it. I did not have a good time. But he pushed me along, and all of a sudden, one day I got a message from the commissioner saying, congratulations, you're a white hat now. And that was in 2010. So been doing it for a while.
All right. And last but not least, another Jersey guy, Mr. Scott Campbell. Thank you for jumping on, sir.
All right, Mike. Thanks for having me on. Been a white hat for about 5 or 6 years in the South chapter. Before that, I was a head linesman, and I've been in officiating for about 20 years. And I also Division III official with the Centennial Landmark Conference. I'm a referee there also. And it's been very rewarding moving to the back, into the backfield from the sideline. It was a natural progression, I guess, because I took over in high school when I first became a white hat. I took over for a crew that probably at that time, and probably I'm going to be selfish when I say this, the crew at the time was led by Mark Finelli, who might have been one of the best white hats in the state. And they were getting championship game after championship game every year. And I took his spot. Like, it was like huge shoes to fill at that time. So, long story short, here I am doing what I do. And it's the most rewarding thing I think I've ever done in my life, besides family things. It's, I hate to say I would do it for free, but I would do it for free.
Make sure next time you say that you hit the mute button first.
Cut that part out.
No, it's one of those things. I mean, you don't want to say it too loud, but you know what? I've never, there's some years I've walked out on the football field and guys say what they meant. Is that what we're making this year? I had no idea. So, and I've served in various, positions in the local, being, president and so forth and all that stuff. So, just being involved, and it's, the officiating thing is just, we have our own thing, and it's a beautiful thing, as we all know, sitting here. And here's the reason why we're here.
Yep. And I think I could speak for everybody that's on this panel tonight that I don't think any of us were in this to get rich and to retire as millionaires with this. So if the officials are out there because of the money, they're probably out there for the wrong reasons. And like you said, we probably at some point are all like, this is just, we're having fun. We're doing something that we love to do. We're staying involved in the sport that we love. And yeah, you get a paycheck every once in a while at the end of the night. And that's always an added bonus. Go out and have a couple beers with some friends. But we're not in this for the money. I don't think any of us here are, or any of the people that I've had the pleasure of talking with. So one of the questions that I have for each person, and we'll kind of go around again, is it was brought up before about maybe not wanting to be a white hat or being voluntold that you were a white hat, different scenarios like that. But we've all probably had different paths of not only becoming a referee, but then progressing from the positions that we started out to the referee spot. So, Sean, I'll start with you. What type of class, or did you have to go through any type of certification to move on from being a regular official, but an on-field official to the referee position?
No, I mean, in New Jersey here, obviously we all take the regular class and you get certified, and it kind of gives you the ability to work whatever position you want. I actually ran into our former crew chief during a basketball summer camp, and I told him I was taking the class, and he's like, "Oh, I'm starting the crew. Do you want to join?" I said, "Yeah, why not?" By virtue of being the youngest guy on the crew, I was put as back judge when we first started out back in the days of 5-man. So, I was kind of also voluntold that I was going to be the guy running around sideline to sideline for a number of years. But yeah, like I had said, after a couple of years and kind of getting some reps in, we talked, and I took one or two games a year as the white hat just to get reps, just to have a backup on the crew. Whenever we did some rec ball, it was me and two of the guys from our crew that always seemed to be doing pop warm together. So that was some good practice, some good reps as the white hat for those games. And then, like I said, eventually, he got to the end of his career and decided that it was time to move up to the clock, and came in one night, talked to the crew, and everybody was like, absolutely, gave him the hat. So I've been back there ever since.
Nice. And sticking with New Jersey, Scott, how about you? Is there any type of criteria or anything that you had to go through? Because I know the three of us are all in New Jersey, but we're three different chapters, so each chapter kind of has their own protocol per se.
No, I just went. I mean, one year I've been doing the short wing, and next year, I was behind there, and the trial by fire, totally different position, and enforcing penalty and everything else. When you were short wing, you were just like bang and walk, not as involved with it. But it was a whole different ball game, a whole new learning curve, and fortunately, the crew like I stated before, the crew I was in was a very veteran crew with former college officials in there, so it made it an easy transition for me, and it was changeover was good. And then when I went into college, the changeover was natural too, because I was already back there. It was just learning more and learning the college game more better, and thank God we have a great teacher there, and our supervisor of officials, Jim Fora, as you know. Couldn't ask for a better teacher of the game. So it was just hey, hit the ground running, and of course along the way you have to have people you rely on to mentor you, that you trust, veteran officials that have been successful. And I mean, cream rises to the top. You know who they are in the room all the time. So
good stuff. And how about you, Mr. Painter? Were you, when you moved, were you already a white hat at that point in time, or were you a white hat in both states?
No, I didn't referee football in Maine. I refereed high school basketball in Maine with the IABO, but when I came to Illinois, I ended up coaching youth football for about 5 years, and then dealing with some parents. I thought, what, maybe I want to be a referee. So I went on the IHSA website in Illinois High School Association, and I just pulled up the exam, when they were recruiting for it, right? I took the exam and barely passed it. And I thought to myself, wow. So I went and did a year of youth football. And in youth football in Illinois, it's 3-man games, right?
Yep.
And you rotate every game. You might do a set of 4 games in a row, and you rotate the position. So you go white hat, linesman, line judge, right? Or in Illinois, a lot of the guys like to do with one wing and then a hybrid back judge umpire. And so I did that for a year and I loved it. And then I refereed with a guy, because you don't have crews, you just referee with odds and end guys. It's kind of a rags to riches outfit. And so we went from that. He said, join an association. And, so the next year I joined the DuPage Officials Association, and later, about 5 years into it, became the president of the association. But then I had a mentor there that said, listen, let's put 5 guys together. Because of the shortage of officials, he was also a local assigner. And he says, I'll make a deal with you. You get 5 guys together, you be the white hat. And at some point during the season, I'm going to give you a crew, a varsity game, even though you're brand new. And so I thought to myself, wow, okay. So I got the 5 guys together. We did the freshman sophomore circuit in Illinois. Sophomores play at 5 o'clock, and the varsity plays right after at 7:30, right? And so there's 2 games on a Friday night. And so we did a year or 2 years of circuit of doing the sophomore games. And then that first year, our first varsity game, I thought it was going to be a school that was going to be, one and forever, and a school that was going to be 9-0 or something, right? And so traditionally, that's what it should have been. But the school that was usually 1 and forever actually had a good year. And so we ended up having a really competitive game. It was my first varsity game at the white hat position. And after that, it's like you couldn't pull me out of that position with a bulldozer. I mean, this is what I wanted to do. My only regret, obviously, is I wished I got into it when I was younger.
Okay.
Because I would have liked to have gone up into the D3, D2, just to see if I could have made that leap. But obviously, at 66 years old now, that's not happening. But I'm going to keep doing this until physically I cannot.
Well, that's still awesome. And many people have told me, many of the mentors that I've had, it's just always living in the moment. So no matter what level you're at, from working the youth game to working the NFL game, just having fun with what you're doing and giving those kids the best thing. That's all that it's really about. So Mike or Steve, did you guys have to go through any special schooling just to transition to white hat? I've seen Mr. Schwab shaking his head no. Mike, did you have to go through any type of special schooling to become a white hat?
No, I had a mentor though, and I really think he wanted to get me off his crew. The easiest way to do it, he promoted to white hat. So when the crew was first put together, my white hat wasn't with us. We had a different guy, but it turned out our crew is considered a bunch of misfits. I was 48 years old as a rookie. And we were, when I think about the crew, we were a bunch of strange people. But I was, and at my age, I always thought I was going to be an umpire.
Okay.
And it turns out I never worked an umpire in a varsity game ever. They started me at linesman. And boy, you're busy when you're a linesman. And then the new referee who became my mentor, a few years later, he said, I'm moving you to back judge. I said, oh, you know about my speed. I have been clocked on the 40-yard dash to come in less than a minute. And that's also with a rest in the middle, at the 20-yard line. So there was another guy who worked back judge. He was a classmate of mine, and we were always arguing who was the slowest back judge. Working back judge, I found out was very boring. I mean, you ran this side or that side. Once in a while, you had a pass come your way.
Mm-hmm.
So I finally got myself moved to back judge, not back judge, a line judge, and very surprised that we even pay the line judge because there's nothing to do. You know, it's not you're not busy like the linesman. I'm probably insulting somebody out here, I'm sure. And then one day I got an email that said from the commissioner going, "Do you want to be a white hat?" And I knew my career was almost over because I didn't have the legs and everything like that. But I knew white hat I could work that because it's less demanding. I mean,
Okay.
And like I said, 2010 I became a white hat. It was fun. I've been having fun on it.
Well, that's awesome. I'm not going to lie. I feel kind of special right now. I feel like I'm the only one that went through any type of schooling. And my schooling that we had to go to is one of our higher ups in our association invited us into his backyard, and about 4 or 5 of us that wanted to possibly become a white hat, we sat in the back with 3 or 4 other white hats, kind of like what we're doing right now. And over a couple Miller Lights, we talked about what the expectations of being a white hat would be, what it's like to be a crew chief. And I guess when he finished his beer, he said, "All right, congratulations, you're now all white hats." So from there, it was just myself. Right now, I'm still an umpire for the most part. I do fill in as a white hat on different games and stuff like that. And I'm very content with where I'm at as the umpire. I really do enjoy it. But knowing the background and learning and listening to the different people, the games that I do have to white hat, I do feel very, I don't want to say cocky, but confident in my abilities that I could lead a group of people on that particular Friday night or Saturday afternoon. So, Mr. Schaub, question for you now, and we're all kind of talking about how we all started at different positions before transitioning to a white hat. How do you feel like that made you become a better referee by knowing different positions?
Oh, as the referee, and the crew chief, and so that was when I became a referee. I wasn't the crew chief, which is sometimes a strange combination, right? Our umpire was the crew chief and took care of all the scheduling and the thises and the that's that the crew chief has to do, and I just had to show up and referee.
Okay.
And so that made that transition wasn't so bad. But I'd worked as an and I figured it's my job as a referee. I need to know what everybody else is going to do because they're going to come ask me. So it was in the mechanics book, and I didn't really have a lot of YouTube videos to go watch or things like this where I could go listen to people talk about, officiating and learn something. It was, here's this transparency that we put up on an overhead. And so there wasn't a lot of technology. So it was kind of, trial by fire. And then it was, hey, there's some clinics. And, I went to a clinic in South Dakota in Sioux Falls, probably my 3rd year. And I still go to that clinic every year.
Okay.
Sioux Empire Clinic, if anybody wants to go to Sioux Falls, it's well worth the money. But it's, I learned from a lot of people and a lot of experience and want to give back to the community of officiating of, hey, this is how you should go do that. And I've tried to sit in other non-referee conversations and figure out what they're doing and listen to those clinicians. So and then I ended up, now as our local association, I've been working on the training staff for the last 5 years, I think. So that's helped me. Hey, I got to learn everything else.
Yeah, definitely the mechanics aspect. I agree with you 100% of just being able to, because, well, you do have 4 or 5 sets of eyes of other people looking at you and your crew and then all the other people. So being able to pass that knowledge down to your crew, even if it's that Friday night saying, hey, at halftime, we're going to talk about this, and being that leader is definitely something, and having that background knowledge is definitely something that I can definitely see helping out. So we got a question here on YouTube coming from Worcester, England. So we got people across the pond listening to us.
Wow.
Krister, I hope I'm saying the name correctly. He's actually got a couple questions here, but his first question that he has is, as crew chiefs, what tips do you guys have for people who may be involved in a blowout game where we got that running clock? What tips do you guys kind of remind yourself about when the game gets a little lopsided like that to make sure that you are still mentally in the game at that point in time. So, Mr. Painter, I'll start with you if you don't mind.
Yeah, I think, a lot of crews get this, especially when they're first starting out, you get some of the lopsided games. And here in Illinois, if you get a game that's a 40-point lead in the second half, then it becomes a running clock. All right. So, and so the theory on that is we don't want to interfere with the game and with chintzy flags, right? So what we want to do is want to make sure we get all the safety stuff first, right? And then kind of help the teams along with things. If the holding really affects the play, maybe you got to call it. I think that comes with experience of the official. But for me, it's just trying to make sure the players are remaining safe and that you have good communication with your crew, right? I mean, there's times you might say, okay, let's tighten up on this. So if you got radios, we all have radios, we say, okay, you know what, make sure, 88's looking like he's head hunting here. Let's keep an eye on this, so the communication part of that with your crewmates is paramount, also with the players too. I communicate with the players like when they're in the huddle. A lot of times, if there's a timeout or something like that, I got time. I want to go talk to players. I want to get a sense of where their head's at, what they're feeling the game's at, especially if they're on the losing end of a 65-3 game, right? Because that tells me kind of how the temperature is. Is the temperature going up? Are you going to have a street fight? Or does this kid just want the thing to end? Right. So I think all of that plays in for me as a crew chief, and then I communicate that back with my guys.
Good stuff. And how about you, Mr. Goldman? What kind of tips do you have for people to stay mentally involved in games like that? Because we've all been a part of it at some capacity.
Yeah, it's hard. You got a game that you want to get it over for the kids' sake. They're getting tired of it. But I say every game is actually broken down into a play at a time. So do your best on every play because something unusual can happen. And we keep talking about it. It's football. So even in a blowout, something interesting can happen. And enjoy it. By the way, the question you got, you said it was from England?
Yes, sir.
I'm married to a Brit. So you may want to check back with the individual. What football is he talking
Football.
So a couple episodes ago, I had a gentleman on that was from the British American Football Association. So it's American football. There's 85 colleges in England and in the UK, I should say, that are playing American football. So I was shocked when I heard that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're still talking American football here. So Mr. Campbell, question for you now, sir.
Yes.
Some of the challenges that we face as white hats when you get a highly competitive game. Now we're going to go on the opposite side of it. You get that highly competitive game. An example: I was in a playoff game this past year where they ran, I want to say, close to 200 snaps between the two teams because both teams were no huddle. It was a game that came down to the final second, so it was a state semifinal game. Great atmosphere, great game. Kids laying it all out on the line. What kind of tips do you have for making sure that you're at your A game during a game like that?
I think as all the white hats on this call will say, every play is each individual game itself. You go through a whole repetition every play. Once the play goes off, then you're fishing. But all your pre-snap responsibilities and so forth, you have a zillion things going on in your head and what you're doing, and you're communicating to your guys, your umpire, your wing officials, and so forth. But just every play in itself is important, and you concentrate, and especially if you think you might have missed a call, and you have to, refocus, hit the reset button and say, hey, let's get your head back in there, or somebody else in your crew might have had a little bit of a slip up, then you're playing, amateur psychologist.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a lot of different things you're doing. I mean, the white hat is, patting ourselves on the back is the most detail oriented position on the field, and your responsibilities. You have the clock, you have, the players, you have the coaches, you have, your own guys, and, it's each individual play. And, and when you get into a tight game like that, it's easy to officiate in the first quarter.
Yes.
That last 2 minutes of the game is where we earn our money,
Yeah.
As officials, and it's where we have to bear down and, do our thing. And, and if you think taking the famous Tom Hill, we all know Tom Hill, former NFL official. Tom said, "You don't think it's a big game, and you go screw something up, you'll see how big it becomes."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
got to keep your head in there. Bottom line, even in the most lopsided games, I think you have to really. That's when you really have to bear down also.
Yeah, I personally find that the lopsided games are actually more difficult to officiate than the close games, because I'm always going to then be more uber focused on those tight games where the question was, your mind does unfortunately tend to wander, and you got to kind of snap yourself back into it when you get those lopsided games. But Scott, you brought up the fact sometimes you question yourself on a call, or maybe a crewmate made a call and you're like, I kind of related to, I'm still coaching my kids' teams, and I tell the cornerbacks, you got to have a short memory. You got beat on that one pass play. Next play is another play. You got to have a short memory, and let's go back and we'll watch film and we'll correct it. But next play is a whole new play. So we got to put that in the past and move on from it. So we got to keep on going, because the game's not going to stop until that final horn goes off. So we can't stop, or we don't get to call a timeout for ourselves. We got to keep moving on. So Mr. Schaub, how about yourself? What kind of tips do you have in those really complex games or stuff like that?
I think the complex games are all set up by having your pre-snap routine done in all of the other games. And so doing the same thing you've been doing that's got you that success to get you in that game is what keeps you in the big games, right? It keeps you in the tight games, and all those individual plays that you've worked, you're just working another play. And again, we've said it before, is, if something gets kicked, you got to forget about it. And it's the referee's job to figure out that, hey, is everybody locked in? Is everybody's head still in it? And, if you have to tell somebody to go take a breath, that's our job. We got to make sure that part gets managed, because you can't let one bad play turn into 6 bad plays.
Yep. You can't have that snowball effect at all, especially with what we're doing. All right. So Mr. Goldman, I'm going to throw this one towards you as, being, and we talked about now, pretty much we're all crew chiefs now with the white hat. How do you go about, what is your, I would guess, midweek to late in the week type of routine with your crew? Do you have any type of communication going on with the crew, or even possibly post game or right after the game? What kind of communication do you have with the crew that you work with?
We exchange a lot of emails. I mean,
Okay.
Everybody's required to check in with me. It's just I know they're going to show up, but I insist that they check in at the main, and we may talk a little bit about a last game or something like that. Some of them send me the penalties that we may have called. So we're kind of getting the back of the season, or the last game, completed. I then contact the ADs at the school we're going to get all the information about locker rooms, parking, all that kind of stuff, and then I send that to the crew. And it gives us an interaction. We all know we're going to show up at the same place at the same time and get into our pregame. And depending on when it is in the season, like first game of the season, we'll have a 45-minute pregame, which starts with "This is the football." Then, by the end of the season, it's go out. We're going to take attendance and then walk out to the field and do the game. Please social hustle while you're doing that. I'd like to go back to one thing, though. We were talking about handling close games.
Mhm.
You have to remember, the close games, when there's a lot of intensity, that's what we live for. And
Yes.
that's where we want to be. You know, a blowout, we do our best. We try to keep the game going. But when the stakes are so high and it's a close game, and anything gets decided, the endorphins kick in. And suddenly your vision of the field gets this big, and you're in the zone. And I'll say the 6 guys of my crew are in the zone with me. You know, we're having this is the best time we're going to have.
That is very true.
It's very important. We don't use microphones, so we have our little meet when there's a penalty. The important thing is with my guys, just tell me the penalty. I don't need to know what happened, and I trust you. And we go right to it from there. I may question someone, you know, like if you get something that should be, they call it sportsmanlike, and it's the personal foul or something like that. We might correct that. But for the most part, I trust my crew, they trust me, and we move on.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So, my college officials, what do you guys have with the college game, pregame, postgame, video review, and things like that? Steve, we'll start with you this time.
I would say we got done on Saturday with our game, and we might have a 3-hour drive home. So that prep for the next game starts then. But Sunday, I've got to have, you know, my foul information into Quick Ref and to my supervisor by Sunday morning. Monday, I've usually got something going out to the ADs with the colleges to say, hey, you know, here's the crew, here's where we're planning on being. Is there anything strange? Is there anything going on? Is there a helicopter flying in the game ball, which has happened? All that stuff. Tuesday, I usually hear from, hey, if anything squirrely happened the previous Saturday, my commissioner wants to talk about that. Wednesday, we have a crew chief call at 7, and then we have a crew call after that. So everything that we learned about in the referee call, I can just immediately distribute to the crew, because that way I don't have to forget it, or it's harder to forget.
Okay.
And then most of us work Friday nights too. So, you know, then all of a sudden it's our Friday night game, and then all of a sudden we're on the road Saturday to work another game. So and our farthest, you know, we work a game. I live in Cedar Rapids. We work a game in Lincoln, Nebraska. So it's a 5-hour drive. So that's a long day to drive to Lincoln and back. And so you've got some time to pregame there, but we're there 3 hours early. So
Yep.
Pretty similar. I got to what Steve has. You know, the Saturday is actually the easy part doing the game. I mean, quite honestly, you know. But I'll start, like, in our instance, you know, Sunday we usually get a call as White Hat from our supervisor to talk about the game from the day before. You know, we get the game film usually Saturday night after the game, or Sunday morning at the latest, but 9 times out of 10, it's right after the game. By the time we get home, we already have the game. So we're all watching, and, you know, penalty reports are getting submitted. In our chapter, it's not the referees don't do the penalty report. It's the H does the penalty report in our chapter. So I don't have that responsibility, but we all consult with each other and make sure that all the information is correct. Then Monday we get our game tapes, teaching, what Mr. Kapoor calls teaching plays. We get about 55 plays on Monday, and then, you know, emails go out to the ADs and coaches and introducing yourself, telling you what the crew is, and then, you know, getting with the officials during the week. And we also have referee meetings, you know, leading into the weekend. And by the time you hit Thursday night, you pretty much, you know, after you've done all your work for the week, you hit Friday. And if you're doing a high school game, and then Saturday you hit the ground running, like, you know, because you have to be there. You know, we have a requirement to be there, you know, 3 hours before. Also, it's time consuming, but the time flies, and you get your pregame in and so forth, and, you know, by the time you get everything done and meet with the coaches, it's game time. The game is the quote unquote easy part.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that leads up. It's really, I mean, high school officiating has become this too. it's a 6-7 day a week job now. I mean, even, and I say job loosely, but college is definitely that way. And, and then you get in the off season, and that's a whole different animal. So, yeah,
Like we got going on right now.
exactly.
So now my next question, I do want to hear everybody's take on this one, so we'll kind of go around my board here. But I'll start with you, Sean. What's probably one of the most challenging things that you've encountered as a white hat, be it a style of offense or a particular call or play or something like that? What do you feel may have been one of the most challenging things that you've encountered so far that somebody that's out there might not have encountered that can possibly get something from?
Well, I think from a personal standpoint, being a back judge my whole career, doing basketball, I was so used to working every play with a whistle in my mouth from start to finish. And the first day I took over as crew chief, I had my first inadvertent whistle in, several hundred games while the play was going on. It was a little extracurricular activity while the play was still going on, and I just didn't know. So remembering that the play is going on and you're behind the play as the referee. So everything's going away from you as opposed to being a back judge where it's coming towards you and you see the whole thing. So understanding that while you have your stuff in front of you, the majority of everything is downfield. So you have to rely on your crew to make the call and let them, blow the whistle and stuff. But back to what, the guys were saying, these up tempo games, 200 snaps in a game, that's crazy. But yeah, just again, making sure that you have your pre-snap routine, knowing how to count your 11, you got the right numbers on the line. Are you in the right position? Are you seeing what you're supposed to see? So those up-tempo games can get a little harrowing sometimes, just because there's so much happening all at once, and sometimes the players aren't set on either side, but also you got to make sure that the officials are set on each side. We can't put the ball in play if we're not in position to cover it. So stepping in to hold the play and hold the snap is always interesting, and the offensive team starts to really look at you like, what are you doing here? Let's go. But we got to make sure we're in our position too. So.
And how about you, Mr. Painter?
So I think for me, a lot of the in-game stuff it's football. It's what we love to do and everything else. Communication between the crewmates is what's really important. And for me, we do have the O2Os, and when you got a pass interference call 35, 40 yards down the field, I want the back judge to be on the radio to let me know I've got pass interference, number 25, grab and restrict, ball was in the air. Okay, I'm good. All right. And the reason for that is because if you got the coach screaming on the sideline, or he wants to talk about it, the conversation should be quick and simple, right? I go over, Coach, how we doing? And he's like, I can't believe you called pass interference. Coach, ball was in the air. We had my man had a grab and restrict. We've got pass interference, and that's what we are. I said, we'll look at it on film, and we'll all learn from it. Other than that, we're back at it, right? So it's literally a minute and a half, but you give him his say. I think from the frustrating part sometimes is when you get a lack of communication, and then you got to run down there, and it's a bad look if you've got to run to your crewmate, if you got a radio on. I mean, if you don't, that's one thing. But if you got a radio on, then you run to your crewmate. What do you got? What was it? Pass interference. Well, what was it? I want to have that information quickly over the radio. So communication for me, I think, has to be paramount.
Okay. And Scott, how about yourself? What do you find to be one of the most challenging things as a white hat?
Right now, one of the most challenging things is to keep your crew in the game at all times, and just making sure everybody's on the same page. But the high school game has evolved so much in recent years, and to a different type of game where now we're starting to question some mechanics changes to what we do, not only as white hats, but the whole in New Jersey, the 6-man six official crew, what we do. So, I mean, but that's one of the biggest challenges, I think, is to just constantly keep your crew in the game and prepared and make sure that they're coming there with the same mindset that you have, and and making sure that is universal in the crew. Because let's be honest, I mean, just like anything, there's some guys that come ill prepared, both mentally and sometimes physically. So it's just a matter of how we all adjust, and we are looked at as the focal point. I mean, we are the leaders of the group, of the crew, whether we like it or not. I mean, our supervisors, our assigners, whatever you want to call them, they wouldn't have put us in these positions if they didn't think we could handle it. And so the bottom line is, everybody looks to us. So
Yeah. And one thing that I kind of find quite humorous is that wearing that white hat, you're getting the brunt of all the fans screaming and yelling at you. You're the name that everybody remembers, that the coaches remember, that the PA system announcer remembers. But typically, as the white hat, you could probably count on one hand how many flags you actually throw in a season, let alone a game, because you're primarily not the one. You're focusing in on the quarterback pretty much solely. So that's going to be your main focal point at the high school level. So you're probably not even throwing the flag, and now you're relying on the information, but it's all the yelling and screaming at the white hat. Call stinks, ref, you're screwing us, blah, 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 blah. No, that's definitely something that is challenging. Mr. Goldman, how about yourself?
I can't remember what the question was.
What do you find to be one of the most challenging?
I thought about what particular challenging plays did I have. I had a game with two endings. It was, and trying to get the game done. Well, let me explain what happened. Last play of the game, there was like 1 second left on the clock. The team on defense is leading by at least 2 touchdowns. The team that's losing, they snap the ball, quarterback steps back, throws a 30-yard pass down the field. It's caught in the end zone by his own player. They got a touchdown. Meanwhile, since we're white hats doing our job, I'm focusing on everything that's going on in that offensive backfield. And while a pursuer was going after the quarterback, one of the offensive players blocked him right in the back and knocked him down. Throw the flag. Now, everybody in the stadium watched the ball.
Yep.
Right? So the touchdown occurs, they signal touchdown, and the teams get on the field to shake hands. And the bands, but the game is over, and I'm going, Coach, I got to talk to you. I said, if you decline the penalty, the game's over. However, if you decline the penalty, the other team has scored a touchdown. He goes, I can't believe that happened. It didn't matter. So I had to clear the handshakes, get everybody off the field, so we could play that last play, which of course was an incomplete pass.
Yes.
But I called my game with 2 ends. I mean, that was just a challenging play. There's other challenges, and I don't want to go too far off it, but sometimes the biggest challenge is being a member of association. And all the politics that go with that, and there are politics. And when I tell my crew this before every game, before we go out, for the next 48 minutes, you're going to be focusing on what could be a meaningless football game. There's a billion Chinese that don't care about this game. There might be some people in the neighborhood who don't care about this game. Okay. But you care about it, and this is your vacation from life. You're going to think about a football game. You're not going to think about politics. You're not going to think about problems at home. This is your vacation. And that's what we do. We take it as a vacation. For 48 minutes, we don't have to focus on anything. I hate to say it this way, but a silly football game.
Yeah, and Scott, I'm going to steal one from this weekend that was brought up a couple of times. What we do does have the ability to change people's zip codes, because if we are making bad calls and we may have a job the following week, but that coach, if they're predicated on wins and losses, so we need to be focused on those 48 minutes, those 60 minutes, whatever it may be, because unfortunately, we could possibly dictate somebody having another job somewhere else the following year or not. So it is that important. So yeah, maybe in China they're not paying attention, or even the next town over in that town they're not paying attention. But everybody that's involved in that game, it has meaning. So do the best that you can at all times. Mr. Schwab, we'll finish off with you on this question. What do you find to be one of the most challenging?
So a couple of things. If I think positionally as a referee, the thing that was my most challenging is, hey, this is my first time in a stadium with a field mic on a high school field. So that's always the, oh no, now people are going to hear what I say. And so I got to, I could make the whole crew look terrible on a really good flag and a good call that even two coaches agreed with when I have an announcement that sucks. I want to make us all look like idiots. So, and then you go to maybe your first TV game of, hey, the first time you're on TV, now it's, oh boy, now we got to really look good. I got to listen, all of those things. Positionally, I think that's hard. And then as a crew chief, it's learning to trust the people on your crew and start to delegate and giving them responsibilities and holding them accountable to go do it. And sometimes if you don't have the same crew all the time, that's hard to do. But, I've 4 of the 5 of my high school crew have been together quite some time now. And hey, I trust them to go do their jobs. And hey, this is what I'm expecting you to talk about and and you trust them to do their jobs in the field. I don't question flags very often from anybody on the field. It's, hey, that's their call. I trust it. And, wings know that they own their sideline. If there's something they need to talk to the head coach about, that's their job. If I need to come over, and I tell the coaches that in my meeting, I'll come over and talk to you, but I'm expecting them to take care of it. So I think those are the challenges for me.
Yeah. And
I do want to say, Coach Hill has had influence on me too, if that doesn't surprise any of you.
There you go.
He's touched a lot of people in positive ways. That's awesome stuff. But I do got to echo what you're saying, is making sure that you trust the people that you're working with. And even if it is the first night that you're working with them, even if it is a mismatched crew that you're working with, but trusting that, hey, we're all here to do a job. Let's do our job. You do your job, you do your job. And then everything else does come out and makes it look like a well-oiled machine. It's definitely a big thing. And Steve, one thing that we've been kind of doing here with our association and in our state, we've been talking about, even if we're not wearing the microphone, when we're calling out the penalties, announce it like we are wearing a microphone. So even when you're working those freshman and JV games, announce it like you have a microphone on your hip, so that the time that it does come that microphone is there, it's not something that's foreign to you. But now all of a sudden you just hear your voice echoing a little bit more through the PA system. So I got to say, one of the more challenging things for me personally, and this is actually from an umpire point of view, that one game I was talking about particularly with 180 snaps. Well, one of the teams was a true triple option team, old school flex bone, no huddle, super fast, extremely disciplined. The other team was also no huddle. They told us pregame, we are snapping the ball every 15 seconds, but they were more of a spread team. So we had 2 completely different style offenses. Both of them were no huddle, but when I tell you the ball, well, the spread team, they ran bubbles and screens and stuff like that, which is a challenge in its own right of making sure you don't have RPOs and guys downfield and things like that. And then with the triple option, keeping that whistle quiet until you know exactly where that ball is. I mean, those are 2 challenging things that I could say not only as an umpire, as a white hat, but for our whole crew, it was definitely a challenging aspect in that game. So those are the little things that happen in the games, and that it was nice after that game walking off that field, and we were getting complimented by the parents. Hey, good job from both sides, which was really nice, because it was kind of an odd dynamic of how they had us. We walked basically between both fan sections to get out of the stadium. So that was unique, but there was no animosity towards us. So I think that kind of gave us a little pat on our own backs in that sense.
Yes.
So we're getting close to that time here. So I just want to finish off on one more question, and this was another question that I have from one of the listeners on YouTube from Eric, and Eric was a former guest on the show too. Eric just finished out with his first year on the field, but his question is going forward. What goals do you all have now as White Hats? Now that you're already at the White Hat status, be it high school or the Division III level, what future goals do you have right now in your football officiating career? So, Mike, I'm going to start off with you, being you're kind of on the fence about next year right now. So,
I guess I'll say in May I turn 80, and just of people going, that referee out there, he's 80 years old. I mean, whatever. But so my long-term goals, if I come back, we'll see. But just enjoy this has got to be my last season. Just enjoy it. It's fun. That's the reason we do it. Like I said, there's no money involved. I did accomplish something last year, which will carry me forward, which is on the last play of the season, I got to ring up a touchdown in my end zone. And I think you guys all know that doesn't happen very often.
no.
So my goal, that was it. We'll have a good time, and people have understood where I'm coming from. So it's just a fun sport. Officiating is just a different way of looking at a game, and that's the fun part.
Well, Mike, I'm going to kind of deviate away from the officiating thing. Right now, one of my goals is to turn 80. So that's fantastic that you're 80 and you're still officiating. So I have
Look as
that
good
as
as
just I have that as a short-term and long-term goal is to get to 80. So right now I'm looking to hit 51. So I'm hoping to get there right now.
Don't be in a hurry.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Mr. Campbell, how about you?
Mike, you look great for 80. I didn't have you a day over 70, so
Thank
you're
you.
doing good.
Good genes. Good genes.
No, I mean, goals are good to have, but I just look to get better every time I walk out on the field. I've had the games in high school, the games in the chapter, statewide games, those type of games. And college has been a great experience. I don't know how far I'd go there. I mean, it's, I just like to go out there and, what happens. The players deserve our best. The coaches deserve our best. The guys around us deserve our best. So that's really what I focus on day to day. I think I'm at that point in my career that I'm not, I know there's a glass ceiling and I'm okay with that. Because that's never why I got into it. Just to get better. And it's the best sport in the world, bar none. So, and that's why I like being involved with it.
Good stuff. Mr. Painter, how about yourself?
So mine, I think, for me, just to be able to do it at a high level, get into the rule book, right? And so with my theory on this is every year I want to be more proficient with the rule book. And then I want to see if I can get to the next level in our playoff system, right? And keep progressing through the high school playoff system here in Illinois. So that's what I strive for every year, to be a better official from game 1 to game 2 and so forth till the end of the season. I think more than anything, that. And then this year, I really want to be more involved in mentoring junior officials. Get down in some of the freshman games on Saturday mornings and, get with some of these guys and work with them.
Good stuff. And this question that I proposed to you is brought up by a fellow Illini there, Mr. Painter. So he was happy to see you there. Mr. Schaub, how about yourself?
I think my goals are crew goals. I mean, it sounds trite to just say, hey, I want to advance in the playoffs more than we did last year. But really, that's how we're measured on success, right? If we want to be given those opportunities and earn them, because that's how people, recognize you're doing a good job. And, same thing. I want to work another level of high school. I want to work in the college playoffs. Like I said, it sounds simple, but that's what the measuring stick is.
Yeah, and a lot of that goes back to even the coaches and the players. They all have that same goal: is let's get to the playoffs, let's get to the next level, possibly. So it's kind of goes hand in hand with that. And Mr. Perry, last but not least, what kind of goals do you have for yourself?
I think the two Steves here kind of buttoned ended real nice. One, get better yourself, and just kind of I just read this great book called Atomic Habits, and it talks about 1% better every day. And I think that's start out great on game one and continue to get better throughout the season individually, but also as a crew too. I mean, we've been together for a number of years, and we trust each other, and I think we have a pretty good crew. But just as a group, continue to get better, and be one of those crews where we walk in and coaches know that they're going to get a good game out of us, and feel that they don't have to worry about the guys in the striped shirt. So individually better, and definitely as a crew better.
That's awesome stuff. I got to say, one of my goals is to get another week of a podcast going, and hopefully a goal is that people are getting something from this podcast that I can then get better myself too. So kind of encompassing what everybody said, try to get better at what I do on the field and off the field, and hopefully help mentor other people to either get involved or stay involved or get better at what we're doing here as football officials at whatever level. So I think that's my long-term goal with what I have going on myself personally. So gentlemen, once again, I would like to thank you all. We kind of went a little bit longer than I normally go to. We broke that hour mark, which I was trying to keep it under, but talking football sometimes happens. So once again, I want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to jump on. I'm hoping the listeners out there were able to get something out of tonight's episode. This will be published the following Wednesday, so a week from tonight is when it will be published out there for anybody who didn't get an opportunity to listen to us live. It'll be out there on Spotify and Apple. Once again, hit those like buttons, hit those subscribe buttons. And take a look for future episodes. I do plan on doing other positional breakdowns like this. So an umpire roundtable I put out there on Facebook, short wing, a deep wing roundtable. And then as we're starting to get closer to the summertime, because we're in spring is close, start diving into some of those particular rules and whatnot. Get our mind fresh on those rules and refreshed and reminded on different things such as force, momentum, those little tricky ones that people sometimes forget. So just a sneak preview of what we have to come. But once again, gentlemen, I appreciate your time. I hope you all have an enjoyable spring. It sounds like everybody is going to be a little bit off from the officiating aspect of it on the field. So enjoy a little bit of time off of your feet. Enjoy the family life again. And I look forward to hopefully running into you guys again on the football field sometime in the future. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks for having us, Mike.
Thank you.
Excellent, man.